What's up, you guys? DHR2. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to your very first wrestler review and storylines from the 1990s. And the reason why I chose Undertaker as my top choice because he is my favorite wrestler of all time, and plus he is the GOAT and, in my opinion, the king of the WWE. He was there from the beginning, way before Triple H and them. Um, he was the wrestler that I've always followed basically my whole life. I probably said the same thing to all the other wrestlers. I mean, the wrestlers from the '90s, but I think Undertaker is my top choice in my opinion. So, if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe, comment, and follow me on Instagram if you must. Again, if you're new, subscribe to my channel right now. So, and remember when I said that in my update video that I did, I was gonna do wrestling videos um on Sundays. Well, this is probably the best day to do it. So, okay, um, let's start with the 1996 Undertaker because I think this is one of his prime years. With one of the most classic battles with other wrestlers and memorable storylines ever. So we're gonna start things off in early January of 1996 when Undertaker entered the Royal Rumble with Bret Hart wrestling him for the World Wrestling Federation title after Gorilla Monsoon named him the number one contender for the title. So just when Undertaker was going for a pin after the Tombstone, Diesel comes out and costs Undertaker the title match, and then um, the next night on Raw, he ended up getting a rematch for the World Wrestling Federation title, but Diesel ended up costing him the match once again, which will lead to Bret Hart versus Diesel at In Your House in a steel cage match. Undertaker appears coming from under the ring and uh, sucking Diesel under the ring, as you say, the depths of hell, if whatever you want to say it. So Bret Hart basically ends up um, winning the steel cage match and still retaining the title. So, which relate to Undertaker versus Diesel at WrestleMania 12. Excuse me, I mean WrestleMania 12, and which Undertaker won, by the way. Even though the match, there were some parts that were boring, but it was pretty much watchable. So Undertaker won his WrestleMania match against Diesel, and the next night on Raw, we've seen the debut of JBL, aka John Bradshaw Layfield. Oh, Layfield, excuse me. So just when Undertaker was going to win the match, so the very first night, Mankind comes out and attacks Undertaker, which will lead to one of the biggest storylines in WWF slash E history between Undertaker and Mankind. So, so after their past encounters, Undertaker was dealing with another situation with Goldust, leading them to their first ever, well, Goldust first casket match at In Your House, Undertaker versus Goldust at In Your House pay per view, which Undertaker, lost due to Mankind appearing inside of a casket, giving the Undertaker the man of a claw, which cost him the Intercontinental title. So Goldust ended up retaining the title due to Mankind's interference. So they had their next match, uh, the next pay per view at In Your House. Jesus, how many in your house the WWE had back then? I can't tell. So basically, The Undertaker and Goldust had their next match at In Your House pay per view. So just when Undertaker was having a good match, Mankind interferes, and all of a sudden he ends up losing another match thanks to Mankind. So I feel like the more Undertaker and Mankind pretty much interfere in Undertaker matches. I think the more he's asking for a butt whooping. So he pretty much did just that basically. So all of that, which will lead to no. Well, yeah. I'm talking like storylines. So yeah, all of that will lead to the very first um boiler room brawl at SummerSlam 1996. Um, this match was basically one of the most classic and one of the most uh um I can't even get it out without stuttering on it. The greatest matches of all time, and it really showcases how. No. Wait a second. I skipped the match with Undertaker Mankind. They had their first match. They first met at In Your House, and we definitely got to see the aggressive side of Undertaker like we've never seen before, and which showcased his aggressive side later in the Attitude Era. So I think the '96 was just a preview of what was to come of the Dead Man. Okay, I'm good. So So after that, they met. Well, on Raw, they had a battle royal. Undertaker and Mankind fought all over the arena, and they ended up fighting backstage, which looks to be a preview of the Boiler Room Brawl at SummerSlam, um, come August of that summer of 1990, back in '96. So once again, they ended up meeting up for the Boiler Room Brawl at SummerSlam. They started off backstage with the most brutal fight ever, hitting each other with multiple weapons, low blows uh, to the nuts, basically. Um, then Mankind Undertaker pretty much escapes from the Boiler Room Brawl, and Mankind tries to escape. Undertaker shutting him back to the door. Then and they fought in the hallway in front of everybody. Um, and then Mankind pretty much pours hot coffee on Undertaker. So they made the ring. Well, they made the ring out to the arena. Mankind pretty much did that by crawling onto the Titantron, and then Undertaker gives him this clothesline, and then they fall all the way at the arena, and and all the way to the square circle, the arena. So just when Undertaker was going to retrieve the urn, we've seen a shockingly heel turn that no one back in the '90s saw coming. Paul Bearer turning heel on the Undertaker. The duo has been around for 6 years, and Paul Bearer pretty much turned his back on the dead man. And Mankind ends up coming into the ring, giving the dead man the beatdown, and then Paul Bearer just laughing at him as he's getting destroyed, and he ends up slapping the Undertaker in the face, hitting him with the urn, and giving Mankind the urn to give him the clear victory, the power over the Undertaker. So the next night on Raw, Jim Ross ends up interviewing Mankind and Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer claims that Mankind ends up having the power now, but when the light goes out, flicker back and forth, they realized that the Undertaker was back. So he ends up coming out with the Druids carrying him like he left at SummerSlam. They had Paul Bearer talking about like how Undertaker was dead. The maggots are eating his flesh and blood, eating his flesh right back out. And Undertaker sits up, arms up, and then the pyro goes off on the turnbuckles, and then Undertaker gets in the ring. The blue light comes out, then his eyes roll back of his head, gets on his one knee, does his trademark arms up, eyes roll back of his head. The first official time we see him do that. So the Undertaker is reborn now that he's alive again. When it comes to the storyline, he has a match with okay, I forgot the dude's name, but he ends up wrestling a match on Raw, and he ends up getting the victory. So after that fiasco, Undertaker and Goldust meet one last time. The final curtain call In Your House, which I think is supposed to be I don't know if it's supposed to be Unforgiven or I guess In Your House final curtain call. I guess they would call the name basically. Undertaker versus Mankind again, me fully on it. So yeah, I'm gonna get to that in the future. But right now, I want to focus on the 1996 storyline of Undertaker, which is by far one of the most scariest years and one of his primal years ever. So Undertaker versus Goldust had a match at In Your House Final Curtain Call, I guess. So, which we all know Undertaker will get the final victory over Goldust, which he has. Um, so Undertaker ends up cutting promos on, and this is when they set up a match between Undertaker and Mankind at the first Buried Alive match at In Your House in October of 1996. So all the promos leading to the Buried Alive match, and they played the promo of their past encounters leading up to the match. So the Buried Alive match in your house back in '96 of Undertaker versus Mankind. It was classic. It was brutal. It was crazy, and it was by far one of the best Buried Alive match I've ever seen. And and it really showcased Undertaker's more of aggressive side of Undertaker. Um, Hitting Mankind in the back of steel chair. Mankind power drive Undertaker skull onto the steel chair. Um, then when Undertaker wins the Buried Alive match, the Executioner and Paul Bearer ends up coming out of nowhere and pushing Undertaker into the gravesite and bury him alive, which we all know the Undertaker pretty much won that match. But the I think one of the best endings of the pay per view is when the lightning strikes on the tombstone and Undertaker's hand rises from the ground like the zombie would, and that was the last time we've got to see a purple glove Undertaker. So a few weeks later, Undertaker, ends up talking uh through the microphone and letting Paul Bear know that he will return in the Survivor Series at that in November of 1996. He came out with his Batman get up and he had a different attire, which will later have him dressed in all black in his Attitude Era get up. So Undertaker basically had to make a change, a drastic change of of how he was in the past, but he still kept this bells and thunder theme, which I love that theme to death. It's classic. I love that theme song. It sounds scary, it sounds amusing, and it fits Undertaker to this day. If he would have used that when he came back in 2004 to WrestleMania, that would have been great. But getting back to getting back to 1996 Undertaker. So they ended up having a match um, in the Survivor Series, which was brutal, and Undertaker wins the match right away. But then the Executioner interferes, and Undertaker takes him out once more. Does his victory pose once again. Uh, so the next night on Raw, after the Survivor Series, Undertaker and Mankind wrestled again, which Undertaker won, and then the Executioner interfered once more, leading up to their basically squash match at In Your House in December of '96. So Undertaker wins. No, actually, this is a no holds barred match in 1996 against the Executioner. So, no, actually, it's a last man standing match. I mean, so yeah. So I think on in the WW on WWF Superstars 1986, December of 1986, Undertaker will wrestle um, fake Big Daddy Cool Diesel, aka Kane. For those of you who don't know, Glenn Jacob portrayed different areas of wrestlers such as Isaac Yankup, Diesel, but now he was pretty much Diesel back in '96 December. So Undertaker wins by disqualification due to Vader basically tearing the Undertaker up, well, beating up Undertaker, him and Diesel, well, fake Diesel, I mean, and which will lead to Undertaker and versus the rivalry between Undertaker and Vader in back in '97, which I will reveal later on today. So yeah, 1996 Undertaker was a classic. The reason why he's a 1996 Undertaker is my favorite because of his one of the most memorable rivals of his era between Goldust, Mankind, and the Executioner. So even though he won some matches on Raw, and but his pay-per-view matches were the most unforgivable and one of the most classic battles of all time, such as the Boiler Room Brawl, the Buried Alive match, and the Survivor Series match. I mean, Survivor Series match back in 1996 when Undertaker returned, and he had a drastic change to his getup, and yeah. So if my rate for the Undertaker 1996 Undertaker match, I would have to rate 5 out of 5 because, like I said, I mean you can't go wrong with Undertaker back in 1996. It was one of his prime years. He had one of the best rivals, the best storylines, and he basically made me become a fan. And it's still being talked about today and forever. I don't think there would be anybody that is better than Undertaker. Undertaker is still the greatest of all time. Even when he's in his 50s, he's still the greatest. Like you can't go wrong with him. So, Undertaker one of the most scariest wrestlers of all time. When I first saw him wrestle, he used to play my yeah, that too. And listen, the Undertaker is one of the most best wrestlers of all time, and he basically is the GOAT. He's the master of the mind games. Like you can't go wrong. So, yeah, that is my review of Undertaker and storylines of 1996 Undertaker and why I think it's one of the best years ever. So, if you have any have any opinions on the Undertaker back in 1996 or a comment, let me know down below in the comment section. Until then, this is DHR2. Much love.